So I'm sure you guys have heard of the news of the TikTok personality trans creator Dylan Mulvaney getting both a Bud Light and a Nike multi-million dollar sponsorship deal. This surprised a lot of people because they didn't really see these brands as, targeting the same type of audience. But I guess the trans creator appeals to such a wide audience, and these brands are trying to attract a newer and more diverse audience. So there we have it. I don't inherently have a problem with this. It's capitalism. If that's what they want to do and that's what they want to associate with, that's fine. I don't really have a problem with trans people either. What I have a problem with is some of the behavior that is exhibited by the trans community and the answer the government and society has to that kind of behavior, right? So specifically, I'm talking about how this idea that anytime you say something negative, people explode. They say, oh, you're transphobic, like you're evil or sorry, intolerant. When in reality, you're like, well, why? Why is suddenly being trans a protected class? Why is this something that, like, if you're trans, you're better than the rest of us? This bravery, right? It's annoying. You always hear, oh, you're so brave. You're so brave. You're like, oh, like, why? Well, the answer they give you is because we're being persecuted. We're being hunted. We're being discriminated against. One of the big stats they tell you is because you're 4 times more likely to be murdered if you're trans. You're being assaulted at crazy rates. There was a guy in Canada who was 17 recently murdered. Then another guy in England who was stabbed to death in the park who was trans. And you see this all the time. Now, here's one thing that they never tell you, though, about these circumstances of these murders. Nobody's going out and just attacking a random trans person that's walking on the street. I mean, and let me get this first by saying, obviously, I got to say this. No trans person should be killed. Nobody should be harmed, okay? Violence is wrong. But these attacks, there's circumstances. Most of these circumstances are that the trans person was coming on to a straight person. I don't know what you guys are saying, like, oh, is this really true? Is it going? Yes, it is. Okay, I know quite a few trans people. I used to bartend in Louisville. You know what I'm saying? So I know what goes on, kind of a little bit. I got an idea. And most of the time, like you say, trans people, they don't want to date a gay guy. They don't want to date another trans person. Most of the time, right now, I'm not trying to say there's never absolutes, right? But most of the time, they want to date a straight guy. This is why they want to be acknowledged as real women, even though maybe they got the tool. They want to say, well, I'm a real woman. And they want to be a real woman. Why? Because they want to date a real man, right? A regular, straight man. Well, obviously, it's hard for them because most guys don't want to date a trans person. So they don't tell them. And this is every friend that I've had, this in the gay community that knows trans people, every trans person I've worked with, they always do this. It's very high risk, and this is what's causing all the problems. They'll go on a date, they'll try to fornicate, do something with somebody, and then, they'll find out, hey, there's a tool here, and shit escalates. Obviously, it shouldn't escalate. Nobody should get, violent over it, but there's some crazy people out there that will flip out over this, and you're putting yourself in the situation. The kid in Canada that got murdered, right, was doing that. He jumped in a car with a guy, started doing fellatio, whatever. Guy found out he had a tool, killed him. It's horrible for the family. Should have never happened. That same kid, he was only 17. That same kid the year before had been shot 6 times doing the same thing, hopping into some stranger's car, doing whatever, and got shot, right? And we're like, oh my God. And it is, oh my God, but like after the first time, you should, don't do this kind of behavior. Like, it would be dangerous for a woman. It would be dangerous for anybody doing this kind of thing, but you're misleading people. Same thing, the kid in the UK that was in the park that got stabbed was doing the same thing. I'm telling you, it's so common. And, that's what I find frustrating. They don't tell you this, right? They frame it as in, oh, well, they were just minding their own business. Here's what's funny. In England, they had this lady, right, who's a trans man, right? Started dating another woman without telling the woman that they were trans. They ended up having a sexual relationship. I guess somehow the guy had a prosthesis that he would slip in there and actually use. That wasn't real penis or whatever. Anyway, later on, the lady finds out, right? She goes to the police. They get arrested and they get charged with rape by deception. They get charged with rape by deception. They go to prison for this. And it goes into law like this does. It sets a precedent. This is because it was against a woman, right? Society cares when this kind of stuff happens against a woman, even if it's by a trans. But if it happens to men, nobody sees this as a sexual assault, as a rape by deception. Because if not, we should be teaching trans people, right? Do not have sex with a dude without telling them. Like if you should not hide that you have a penis, right? It's not okay. But we're not only are we saying, no, we're women or women, it's confusing me just to try to explain it here because we're treating men who dress as women or trans, whatever, we're saying those are real women. So if you don't date that kind of person, then you're transphobic, you're evil. So they try to force you to accept that as a real woman, right? And being that it's a real woman, they don't have to tell you all of a sudden. Like that's what society is kind of constructing it. And then they say if you do say something, like in Canada, verbally, you freak out because they have a penis, and you're like, oh my God, you say something that's transphobic. That's a hate speech. And you go to jail in Canada. In the US, if you do something physically, that's a hate crime because it's against a trans person. You see, so this whole system is kind of building against the fact that, trans people can get away with sexually assaulting men by committing rape by deception. And if a man has anything that he doesn't like it, he is first labeled as a transphobic individual in society, but then can actually get in trouble. So you see, like, how it's building around. And this is what worries me because this is the reality. There's the reality of what's happening in society with this trans community. And there's the narrative that society is giving you as these trans people that just want to be left alone, that just want to be free to wear dresses and do all this stuff. And it's like, listen, nobody has a problem with that. Nobody has a problem with that. What we have a problem with is you coming on to straight guys and trying to act like you're real women and not having to disclose that you have a wiener. And then this situation happening and that we're, as men, forced to accept it. You can't even say anything. Can't even say anything. And here, even though like Canada's more strict, here it's less strict. The social media, like giants like TikTok, Facebook, you get banned for saying this stuff. Like this video might even get taken down by YouTube. I certainly couldn't post even a snippet of it on TikTok because people would flip out. And so this is all to protect this narrative that they've developed. So God help us, really, God help us what is going to happen in the future. And it's just frustrating because, and it's hard for me sometimes to verbalize, but I hope I came across like the difference that if you're a woman, right, and even another woman pretends to be a man and has sex with you, that's rape by deception. But if it happens to a man, it's not seen as a problem at all. Not only is it not seen as a problem, but that group, we're going to protect them. We're going to make laws to say that it's worse if you say or do something to them, if you protest, because they're a real woman. And even just saying that they're not a real woman soon is going to be something that's going to be, a faux pas against the law, like, transphobic, whatever. So, and then such big brands now getting involved, like Nike and Bud Light, giving all this money. And it's like, for what end? Like, if the end, goal here was to, protect trans people in the sense of not letting crimes happen to them just for the fact that they're trans, I get it. Like, we should have acceptance. Like, you want to dress like a woman, you want to dress like a man, you want to do whatever. Well, that's fine. Do whatever you want. Date whoever you want. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But the reality of what the law is doing is encouraging these kind of behaviors. Now, you might not know a lot of trans people, maybe you don't know, but if you're at all intimate with the LGBT community, you'll know of this behavior. Of course, they'll deny it, probably. But see, I don't have a dog in that fight. I tell you the reality of what I saw. My best friend's brother was gay. I was a bartender, so I know all this stuff, and this is what I saw. So, and this is what I see every time when I see these cases. Every single one where trans people gets murdered. It's always the thing, but they keep it on the back. I don't know. That's my spiel. I don't mean to go on a rant. Like I said, I got no problem with trans people. I got no problem. You date whoever you want. I have a problem with the narrative that's being pushed. I have the problem with the censorship that's happening on social media. And now even these big brands pushing this stuff. It's like, what? I look at my son and I wonder, is he going to be, demonized if he doesn't want to date a woman with a penis? By the time he is 16, 17 years old, it might be normal. A woman is now going to be whatever the hell somebody wants to be called a woman. And if you are not willing to date them just because they have a penis, then you're intolerant. You're a piece of shit. Is that going to be the future? It's just, It's just nuts. And honestly, like, I'm afraid of him being victimized in the sense that, one of these trans people can literally sexually assault you, can rape you by deception, not having to tell you what is up. Am I going crazy here? Is it just me or not? I don't know. Whatever. I'm just going to post this video, see what you guys think of it. But, that's my main concerns and my main thoughts when I see this stuff. That's all. Anyway, thank you guys for watching as always. Buy red, sell green.